Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network and also at 21stCenturyWire.com. Welcome to our viewers on X. We're also streaming out live on our Facebook page as well as YouTube and Rumble and BitChute as well this week. Great to have everybody with us. We have a very special broadcast for you today, and we'll bring up our guest in just a moment. We've got a lot of ground to cover. A lot has happened in this week, and we'll cover most of this, and then we'll also get a chance in the Overdrive segment to look at some of the other issues. Syria has opened up another front in Idlib. We've got quite a bit of information and updates in that department as well. So a lot going on. Hopefully we'll bring on some of our regular guests during Overdrive to comment on that and the domestic situation in the United States. So I want to bring on the stage now, without further ado, a very special guest. I don't think he's been on this show for a very long time, maybe when we were on the audio format. Gerald Celente from Trends Research joining us on the live link. Gerald, it's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Thank you for all that you do.
And Gerald, I was really inspired by the incredible event that you hosted in your hometown not long ago. Scott Ritter spoke. You had a number of great speakers there. The whole point, and I know this is an issue that you're very passionate about, is the anti-war issue, the pro-peace issue. I just want to say congratulations on a successful event, but Gerald, it is so tough. It is so tough, especially with what's happened in the last couple of months, to get some progress on this issue. We have the transition from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. How are you feeling about all this right now, Gerald?
Well, it's terrible what's going on. You know, the movement, by the way, that Scott Ritter was here, Judge Napolitano, Joe Lauria, and others, is called Occupy Peace. And I launched this movement over a decade ago. So, you know, I'm totally against the wars going on. And peace is a dirty word. You're not allowed to talk about peace. You're banned from all the Western media. They have nobody on the major media speaking about peace. And you go to the Wall Street Journal, you go to one article after another, and barely a word of the genocide going on, barely a picture of the destruction going on in Gaza, and is going on for what? Since October 7th, 2023. According to Lancet, nearly 200,000 people have died, not the numbers that they're putting out. The whole place is being demolished. And where is the outrage? No outrage. You got a little arrogant boy, a murderer of the first degree, Netanyahu, comes to America, talks to Congress, and the little boys and girls, the pieces of political crap, stand up and give him what? Over 50 standing ovations. That's America. And stealing our money to give them the weapons of death to keep this going. And then the same thing in Ukraine. And now Biden's ramping that up with sending the long-range missiles. No outrage. No outrage at all. You know, I have a sign out in front of me. I just put up a Christmas sign, and it says peace with, and I'm saying to myself, what a joke. No peace. Nobody talks about peace. This is probably the only peace sign up here.
And Gerald, I know you've been on many people's programs. You've interviewed people as well. People who used to engage in something called diplomacy. And I know this is sounds like an arcane, far off concept. We don't see a whole lot of it today. Why don't we see that practice of international relations, that practice of diplomacy, Gerald?
Because of what this T-shirt that we have at trendsjournal.com says. And you see that?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Look at the little clown boys running the show. Look at that. Major story coming out. Boris Johnson says We need to do more to secure Ukraine and help them defeat Russia. Boris Johnson, a little clown boy that the best cartoonist in the world could not come up with a more stupid-looking freak of a jerk than that little piece of nothing. I got to hear the crap spewing out of his mouth. Oh, no, the little Catson Macron, yeah, with the fake hair and who knows what he is or this or that. More weapons. Look at the jerks running the show. Out of his mind, Biden. By the way, it's the Trends Journal. The Trends Research is the company that we put out a weekly magazine, the Trends Journal. This week was over 200 pages. Nothing is being reported that we're reporting in the major media. We have a whole section of the Israel war, whole section of the Ukraine war. None of this is being reported. And what we do as trend forecasters, we subscribe to Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. Want to hear what they have to say? Go to the Jerusalem Post, go to the Times of Israel. Oh, they hate you for this. We go to ISNA, IRNA, Press TV, and Tehran Times. We want to hear what the Iranians have to say. Oh, and we go to Arab News. We go to Al Jazeera. We want to hear what the Arabs have to say. They don't do that in the media. You're banned. You're asking what's going on. You got a bunch of freaks running the show. The cover of our magazine, one of them, when the election was going on, Walt Disney White House, presidential reality show, Minnie Mouse versus Donald Duck. We got 345 million people in this country, and this is what they give you? That's it? It's a freak show. And by the way, I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. Worked on major political campaigns in Westchester County, the richest county in America. Oh, I got a picture of me when I picked up Ronald Reagan at the Chicago Hilton and put on a brunch for 16 of our board of directors when I was 30 years old. I've been with presidents, prime ministers, and princes. I've been on the other side. They're little gutless clowns. When you call these guys out man to man, they don't know whether to piss or shit. They're little nothings. But oh no, they're your leaders. Follow your leader. Follow your leader. All right, you ask me why it's going on. It's a freak show, and the freaks are running the show.
As you've brought up the former British Prime Minister, this clip just drifted onto the internet today. I want to play this. It's quite extraordinary, considering everything that we've had to endure the last almost going on 3 years. Here's Boris Johnson.
We are, let's face it, we're waging a proxy war. We're waging a proxy war, but we're not giving our proxies the ability to do the job. And for years and years now, we've been allowing them to fight with one hand tied behind their backs, and it has been cruel. It has been cruel, and we need now to give them what they need.
Gerald, it wasn't long ago that you were called a Russian disinformation purveyor if you said the word proxy war. If you made the observation that NATO is fighting a proxy war against Russia on Ukrainian soil, and there he is after 3 years. Finally, it's safe to say it, Gerald. This is how our consensus media works, I guess.
Yeah. Again, look at that little clown. Look at that fat little clown boy. Anybody that supports war, hey, fat mouth, go over there and fight. Yeah, go over there and fight, Boris. Well, you're so fat you couldn't fight your way out of a paper bag. They wouldn't make one big enough for you. Look at the clown. The best cartoonist in the world could not come out with a freakier little piece of crap than that piece of scum. And again, you call that guy out man to man. Oh, don't you talk to me like that. Oh, I'll have you arrested. Yeah, these are the little freaks. Oh, you got that guy storming now? Look at a little nothing.
Well, the point I think that needs to be raised here, that I think is lost on a lot of people in the United States, with all the election fervor and in Europe as well, is that they're not actually at war with Russia. That we're giving the Ukrainians everything they need to fight. We're giving them all the weapons they need, and we're giving them permission to fire the missiles into Russia now. That's how it's being framed, Gerald. That's how we're meant to see this this conflict. But that's not exactly what's happening, is it?
Again, you know, people, we used to say in the Bronx, people don't know dick about shit. You had the elections here in the United States. Less than, it seems like 6% of the people said global affairs was a major issue. All right? They don't know what's going on. They could care less. How much does a dozen eggs cost? Or did Taylor Swift get laid last night? You know, Ben Affleck had Thanksgiving with his wife. What are you telling me this crap for? That's the meat. There is no journalism anymore. It's dead, gone. Hey, AP just fired what? 8% of its staff or something? Every one, BBC, one after another, all firing people. There's no journalism left. And look at those little clown girl and boy interviewing Boris Johnson. You think they'd have anybody on there talking about peace? I want to make this clear. You know, I have best-selling books. Trends 2000, Trend Tracking, Far Better Than Megatrends. I used to be on Oprah, The Today Show, Good Morning America. And when USA Today was a big newspaper, they used to run our top trends every year. And you can look it up. We put them out in December for the new year. December 2000. 2001 won't be our year, Trendseer says. I warned that a wave of anti-Americanism was sweeping the globe and Americans wouldn't be safe at home or abroad. Then, 9/11. Yep. Everybody has me on the media. Again, I used to be on Oprah, The Today Show. Everybody. What happened? What happened? I said, look what America's doing. Madeleine Albright, or not all that bright, the former UN, America's ambassador to the United Nations, on the show at Leslie Stahl, 60 Minutes. Leslie Stahl asks Madeleine Albright, is the death of 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5 worth the price because of what Bill Clinton has done? And she said, it's worth the price. You forgot about the Yugoslav war or the Kosovo war? Oh, the slaughter going on about the Palestinians? Again, as we say in the Bronx, payback's a bitch. So we saw 9/11 happening. They asked me about this, and I said what's going on. Why, how dare you say that? And then the Afghan war. We're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden dead or alive. 90% of the people swallowed the crap spewing out of the mouth of that little daddy's boy with a pair of cojones smaller than a mothball, George Bush. So now I'm on all the media. What's going to happen? I said, listen, if Alexander the Great couldn't beat the Afghans, if the British at the height of the British Empire into the Valley of Death rode to 600, they couldn't beat them. If Russia couldn't beat them, and Russia was the first one to beat the Germans in World War II, despite losing 25 million people, what makes you think America's going to defeat the Afghans? We haven't won a war since World War II. And again, we won that without Russia. Lost the Vietnam War, lost the Korean War. I said, what makes you think we're going to win this war? Why? How dare you say that? How dare you say that? You're anti-American. That's the crap. I got blacklisted from everybody. Everybody. I didn't get back in the media until I came out with the forecast, the Panic of 08. I took the domain name out in 2007. When it comes to money, they want to hear what you got to say. When it comes to peace, they could give a damn.
So, Gerald, America goes to the polls on November 5th. Haven't really spoke about the election with you. What in your mind, Gerald, as you're viewing it from your unique perspective, like analytical perspective, your other perspectives, what happened on November 5th? Go ahead.
Yeah, the people were disgusted with the ruling class of the current, but it's one big club. It's a uniparty, but they were disgusted with the conditions of the country economically. And again, we got it wrong. We go by data. You look at the midterm elections in America. Inflation was at 9%, 2022. Biden's poll ratings were in the toilet. The Republicans didn't do well in the midterm elections because of one issue, abortion. It's a fact, only by the numbers. We thought that would be another issue. And again, we go by the data. The Michigan studies for consumer confidence was at a 4-year high just before the election and up 4 months in a row. But the people are disgusted with what's going on with immigration, with the woke stuff, and they can't afford to buy things. Here, the data. You have, once upon a time, new home buyers, 40% of them, people buying a home for the first time. Now it's down to 27%. That's the other reason why, by the way, they want all the immigrants to come here, because you go to any of the big chains, Marshalls, Target, any of them. You walk in and there's a sign on the front door, help wanted, help wanted, help wanted. They want cheap labor coming in because you can't live in what these chains are paying people to work. So the people were disgusted with the economic system. And there's that old saying, it's the economy, stupid. And that's what it was about. So the working class is suffering, and that's why Trump won. And by the way, the media calls it the people going to the far right. It wasn't far right. It had nothing to do with that at all. It's not far right. This used to be a lot of what used to be a Democratic Party. But what's going to happen, as we see it, is a guessing game. Will Trump live by his words and deeds, or will it be just more BS? Because when you look back to when he first got elected, and by the way, we were the first magazine back then in 2016, in May, the Trends Journal called him a winner. He promised 3 things: build a wall, fix our third world rotted infrastructure, and lower taxes. The only thing he did was lower taxes. And according to the Tax Policy Center, the 1% got 64% of the tax benefits. So now that he's brought in Musk and what they're saying about, getting rid of these government jobs, which I totally agree with. I hate bureaucrats. Bureaucrats are the lowest pieces of crap. They can't get a job in the real world, and they become the most arrogant. I call them bureaucrats. And is he going to use the tariffs? Or is that just talk? So again, we got to see. We have to see what's going to happen. And he also said he's going to end the Ukraine war when he's in office within 24 hours. That's a quote. How come he has lockjaw now and he's not complaining about Biden ramping up the war? And then on the Israeli front, he's got a total Zionist cabinet in there. Little clown boy, Huckleberry, Huckle Jerk, the clown that used to be the governor of Arkansas, that's the UN ambassador to Israel, said there's no such thing as Palestine. There's no such thing as settlements. One after another. So, and what he got? Like hundreds of millions of dollars from the Jewish people. And when he got the $100 million from Sheldon Adelson, he moved the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and said, hey, that land you stole over there, the Golan Heights, that belongs to Syria, it's yours. So what's Trump going to do on that level? So we don't know. But it looks like on the Israel level, he's going to keep ramping it up. On the Ukraine level, it's a guess.
That sounds like there's some big wagers on the table, and I'm not alone. I think you probably see this as well. If you have a foreign lobby dictating your foreign policy, there is a bigger sort of chance for a major error to occur or a miscalculation to occur that might not be in the interests of anybody other than that lobby. Certainly, people are talking about annexing the West Bank. I cannot tell people what a potential powder keg that might end up being. So if the goal is peace, if the goal is stability in the region, you have to be very careful what sort of policies you're backing, especially now. Would you agree, Gerald, that there's a lot more tension right now than there was in 2016 in the Middle East? I mean,
Oh, it's terrible what's going on. It's genocide in front of everybody's eyes. And I'm tired of hearing this crap. You're an anti-Semite. Again, 3 of my last 4 girlfriends were Jewish. My best Jewish friends, they're all opposed to what's going on in Israel. All totally opposed. But you talk about the lobbyists. America, what is it? The Israeli population in America is what, 2.4%? And look at the power they have with AIPAC and all the money that they've given. And then again, I lose subscribers because I'm against the war, and I get emails saying I'm Jewish, I support Israel. That's like me saying I'm Italian, I support Mussolini. No, I'm German, I support Hitler. How stupid can you be? So that's what's going on. They control it. Again, not a word about peace in any of the major media. Totally silenced. Again, they put a little clown boy like Boris Johnson. Who the hell gives a damn what this clown is saying? Who the hell is he? He's a nobody. Oh, another daddy's boy, forgot.
Well, Thanksgiving just passed, Thanksgiving weekend, and I wanted to sort of push out the reminder to people here that the United States still is imposing a policy of starvation on the children of Gaza. And I thought I would highlight this tweet. They all do this, Gerald, on the holidays. Macron, all the American politicians, the Bidens. This is Linda Thomas Greenfield, the ambassador to the United Nations for the U.S. She's showing off her turkey on Thanksgiving this week. But at the same time, as I said here, the U.S. is imposing a policy of starvation on the children of Gaza, a humanitarian disaster, the likes that we have not seen in the modern era. And why do they all do it, Gerald? And the comments are just vicious below these tweets. But all these political leaders, from Ursula von der Leyen to Joe Biden, they all do this. And this sort of, I don't know, signaling, or is this are they torturing us, or is this just complete delusional behavior on the part of this new breed of celebrity politicians? I don't know.
They're out of their mind, arrogant little pieces of scum. End of story. Why is a murderer a murderer, a thief a thief? It's a crime syndicate. They're out of their mind, arrogant little pieces of scum. I use the word celebrity. What's leaders? We don't pee a poo. Get the hell out of here. You're a nobody. Again, I was in the system. They're the low-life pieces of garbage that don't get a job in the real world and suck off the public tit their whole life. You need any more proof? Look at Biden. And again, Trump's nothing more than a daddy's boy. I had lunch with his brother, Robert, back in 2017. I'm up here in Ulster County, across the river is Dutchess County, and he had a restaurant over there in Wassaic. And I spent about 5 hours with him. And he told me that his father, when the father died, left him over $500 million worth of real estate. Trump's nothing more than a spoiled little boy. We're the same age, me and Trump. Matter of fact, my birthday was on Friday. And when I was a kid, I grew up in the Bronx, I was youngest of 5, totally out of control. They used to say, "You little bastard, we had enough of your crap, you're going to military school." I'll be good. I don't want to go to military school. Trump was so arrogant, so narcissistic, they ended up sending him to military school in his teens at a place called Cornwall, New York, which is just about 40 minutes south of where I am up in Kingston, in the middle of nowhere. Now, here you are as a teenager, you're thinking about chicks, sports, cars, whatever. And my mother, may she rest in peace, a great Italian woman, cook like crazy. I'm going to go to military school, get dressed up in a little costume, went to go to sleep, went to wake up and eat crap, can't go out and play. That's how arrogant Trump was. They sent him to military school. He's so narcissistic. All he cares about is himself. That's the system. All they care about are themselves. And And to call these people leaders, who the hell are you to lead me? I don't need a leader. Nobody's going to lead me. I don't tell anybody what to do. Don't tell me what to do. But that attitude's gone. The fight is gone.
So that's the Trump has assembled what people are calling the Avengers. Robert F. Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrats. He's brought in. He said this is a big tent. Elon Musk, a former Democrat or liberal, he's now conservative. He's in. All of these Vivek Ramaswamy, a lot of dynamic business people, entrepreneurs. Not your typical, I guess, politicians, so they say. So he's assembled this team. But Gerald, how much? And as a legitimate question, because they haven't started governing yet, but there's been a lot of hype. So the bar of expectations very, very high. I think we can agree. Based on what you've seen and what you know about how Washington really works, what do you think the chances of a lot of this hype materializing into actual results? I think it's a fair question. I want to give you the floor on that.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it's a guessing game. You look at the people he brought in. Musk, what, the richest guy in the world? But again, nobody tells Trump what to do. So that's where it's going to end up. Are they going to, I agree with a number of things that Trump is for. And by the way, I agree with tariffs. Because once upon a time in America, you read McKinley back in the late 1800s, we had tariffs in this country. We didn't have income tax. The government got the money from tariffs. And as one of McKinley's words are, do you want cheap products or do you want higher wages? We used to have manufacturing in this country. Now only 11% of our GDP is manufacturing based. And manufacturing brings real middle class earnings. So I agree with that. Yeah, will it be tough in the beginning? Possibly. But again, the dollar would get stronger. And that means you could buy more products and it wouldn't cost as much. So there's an upside and a downside to it. But we have to see what's going to happen. And again, Tulsi Gabbard, they say, she's for peace. Oh, yeah? She calls our greatest fear Islamophobia taking over the world and that we have to support Israel. Kennedy. I spoke to Kennedy twice. I had Dennis Kucinich up here when he was his campaign manager as one of my speakers. And I stopped supporting Kennedy when he came out and said the Palestinians are the most pampered people in the world. And he's totally pro-genocide. And Kucinich quit, and he wasn't the campaign manager anymore either because he's all about peace. So again, some things I agree, some I don't, but it's a guessing game at this point. Will Trump live by his word? And will the people coming in do what they say they're going to do? I'm totally in favor of breaking down big time the government. It is a joke. And by the way, I was on the other side. That's why I know what I know. After I worked in the Senate, when I quit, nobody could believe I was going to quit because I'm not going to grovel my way up to the top. I became a government affairs specialist for the chemical industry. I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement back in the 1970s. I was staying at the Willard Hotel in D.C. at 28 years old and putting my meetings on at the Hay Adams, which is right across the street from the White House, top place. And then I started to grow up when I was around 32, and the Iranian conflict broke out, and they taught us to hate Iran. But, of course, people had no idea how the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953, along with the UK and the CIA to steal their oil because Mossadegh said that oil belongs to the Iranian people, not Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. They overthrew the country, put in the Shah, the Savak, the secret police. Anyway, people had no idea that was going on. That's when I became a political atheist and stopped believing in the system. But I was on the other side. I know what it looks like. I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't there. So the thing with Trump is, from people that I know that know him personally, Nobody could tell him what to do. He's an egomaniac, and he'll only do what he wants to do. And money talks. So that's what we have to see.
So if you have big personalities that are assembled in your team, and if somebody has a disagreement or someone says something someone doesn't like it, then the tweet goes out. So I think there's a high probability that some of the political superstars that have been assembled in the Avengers might not last past the 12-month mark. But that's politics, Gerald. That's that you have an A team, you have a bench, you have a B team. The B team comes in after 18 months, and this is how Washington works. But there's another thing about Washington, Gerald, which you can shed some light on. Has anybody ever driven into DC in the last couple of years and compared it to how it looked 20 or 30 years ago? And what I've been all around the world, Gerald, and I've seen all types of places in Asia, Europe, in North America. The concentration of wealth in the Beltway is the greatest concentration of wealth in the world. There is more cash and more money focused in that area than anywhere else on the planet. And it is just mind-blowing to watch it and to see the acceleration of this right through Washington, D.C., right out through the surrounding towns, cities, and counties. And where is that money? What is that money, Gerald? What does this have anything to do with lobbyists and cartels? And if so, Elon Musk and Ramaswamy are supposed to start the Department of Government Efficiency, which is really going to be, I believe, a commission like the Grace Commission during the Reagan era, giving recommendations. But that's not an easy nut to crack, is it? Because every federal dollar is somebody's private fiefdom. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, again, look at America. They call this a democracy. It's a democracy. Look at the election. What did Harris raise? Like $2.3 billion? $2.3 billion to run for office, a clown. Kamala hilarious. What did Trump get? He only got 1.2 billion. You can't run for office without any of the money. Again, if the politicians were all Italian, they call it a mafia, all right? That's all it is. The big zone everything. Once upon a time, the story goes, the magazine cover is here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. One of the past trends journals, and it's not here. Anyway, there was the story goes that the Prince of Peace became violent and drove the money changers. Here it is. This was the Trends Journal back in 2012. The Prince of Peace became violent and drove the money changers out of the temple. The money changers are running the country. The banks, the bandits. Look who owns the S&P 500. 3 companies. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Look at what you have to pay on credit cards. Some of the numbers are up to 39%. Hey, the mafia is charging 10%. 39%. What is the average? Like 22%? And they get away with it. You got a little piece of scum, an arrogant little nothing of a boy with a bad attitude, Bill Clinton. You can hear this guy bullshit for free. But when he speaks to Goldman Sachs gangs, he gets $300,000 an hour. All right? Oh, this is the Bill Clinton that did away with the Federal Communications Act, or brought the NAFTA, sucked out our jobs into Mexico. Oh, brought China into the World Trade Organization, sucked the jobs out of America, went to China, cheap labor. Oh, this is the Bill Clinton killed the Glass-Steagall Act. Mm. So you're asking the rich own the country. We're nothing more than plantation workers of Slavelandia. The middle class is shot. That's why Trump won, because the working class is a starving class. And all the joy's gone. I grew up at the perfect time. I grew up right after the war. The energy of my parents, my aunts and uncles. This is one of my books, by the way. What Zitzi gave Honey Boy. The very thing I've written is my favorite. Zitzi's the Neapolitan dialect for auntie. And It's about growing up in the Bronx as Italian American and what the country used to be and the fun that my aunts and uncles used to have all the time. The holidays were sensational, always laughing, never a word about politics. And now it's all gone. There's a picture of my parents' wedding, 1934. If I can find this real quick here. Here it is. I can see this. But anyway, could you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Look how well dressed they are. My father worked in a fish store. They were laborers. Everybody dressed elegantly. And now it's a freak show. Once upon a time, there was a thing called the Barnum and Bailey Circus. Now you don't have to step. They went out of business. You know why? You don't have to step right up, see the fat man, see the tattooed lady, see the lady with the beard. They're out in the street everywhere. Look how this country's gone down. Again, read this week's Trends Journal about the obesity rates. Oh, and they're blaming it on mental. No. Mothers aren't cooking for their kids anymore. They put them in nursing homes for children that people call daycare centers. You're out of your mind when you're a kid and you got a stranger feeding you crap. Your mother's coming home from work. She's feeding you crap. She ain't cooking anymore. My mother used to cook all day long. There was 7 of us. Look what's going on. The obesity rates. By the way, and it's costing us billions and billions and billions of dollars because of the poor health of these people. So I say we should have a fat tax. The more you weigh, the more you pay. Oh, no, take your drugs. Biden wants to give us, we got to pay for their drugs to take drugs so they could lose weight. How about stop eating crap? Oh, by the way, first book I worked on back in the 1980s when hardly anybody was talking about this, natural healing. So it's not just talk, it's action. And I have an honorary doctorate from the National University of Health Sciences for the work I've done in complementary and integrative medicine. Not talked about at all. When the COVID war went on, don't get in good health. Don't build up your immune system. Take this shot. Take this shot. All right?
Yeah, take the shot and get the KFC delivered to your door by DoorDash or Deliveroo.
Yeah.
All those companies exploded. But for trends, Gerald, and you mentioned Glass-Steagall, so I have to ask you this question. That's, by the way, Bill Clinton's great parting gift to the world, one of his last deeds as president, 2-term president. That's a problem that hasn't really been repaired. So I'm going to ask you, Gerald, is there the same type of bubble that is forming right now? And if so, are we in danger of another repeat of what we saw in 2008 along the similar lines in terms of debt bubbles? Go ahead.
The only magazine in the world, the Trends Journal, is talking about what nobody else is. And that's the office building bust. Go by the data. Google up Castle Systems with a K. Put in office occupancy rate. Well, it's moved up a bit. It's up to 53%. According to data, different data, but some of it, the office vacancy rate, meaning nobody there, 24%. There are between, again, the data changes, between $2 to $4 trillion worth of commercial real estate debt coming due over the next 2 years. You have all these vacant buildings. I'm down the city 2 weeks ago. My buddy and I walked, they wanted to do an interview with me at the stock exchange. So we left the stock exchange and we went up to, I got a friend that has a great restaurant, the Tudor City. Up, the name of the restaurant in Tudor City. It's up by 40th and 2nd. We walked all the way up. For rent. Whole blocks. We walked over to 48th Street and Park Avenue. Whole blocks. Retail space for rent. Let's go back. Tracking trends is the understanding of where we are and how we got here to see where we're going. Let's go back to the COVID war. Get back in your house. You can't go to work. All right. People, now they're staying home week after week, month after month, year after year. And they're saying to themselves, I'd be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to commute an hour and a half each way. I'd be out of my mind. I'm not going to do that anymore. Now, I'm the guy that say I have 12 stories in a building. I get everybody in cubicles. I don't see them anyway. Yeah, stay home a couple of days a week. We don't need you here. I don't need all this office space. I'll make more money. There's going to be defaults on offices, commercial real estate, the likes of which we've never seen before, not repeated, nothing mentioned. The Wall Street Journal came up with a big article this week about how they're converting these empty office spaces into apartments. Total BS. Total. You read to almost the end of the article, it's about 1.7% of the vacant spaces. Buildings built within the last 50 years are non-convertible. Fact. About 3 months ago, an office building on 50th Street, Sports Illustrated used to be there, right in the center of the street. In 2006, it sold for $320 million. It went up for auction. Sold for $8.5 million. Again, the building's in the middle of the street. You don't have windows here, don't have windows there, don't have windows in the back, only in the front. Non-convertible for housing. No one's talking about this. You're going back to the banks. And then look what they did again, how under the Biden administration, they wanted to have banks bigger reserves, and they pulled back on it. They don't have the money to cover these losses. There's going to be trillions of dollars worth of losses. No one is talking about it. And to me, that's going to crash the markets. And then going back to Trump, the guessing game. Will he lower interest rates to keep jacking up the economy? Let's go back to 2018. Oh, December. The NASDAQ was down 9%. The S&P and Dow were down 10%. It was the worst December since the Great Depression in December 1931. What did Trump do? He forced the Fed head, Jerome Powell, to lower interest rates. They lowered them in January 2019. Oh, what happened? Oh, the repo crisis? Oh, we'll forget about that. Don't talk about that. People have no idea. Again, very important. If Trump lowers interest rates, the dollar's going to go down. The deeper the dollar falls, the higher gold prices will go. And then there's the BRICS. They've had enough of America's hegemony, socioeconomic hegemony and geopolitical hegemony. It is going to be the wave of the future. And we're only a country of 345 million people. What does China have? 1.4 billion? You know, again, we're going nowhere. And so that's the beginning. Again, we have to see what's going to happen. But to answer your question, the office building bust is going to cause the banks to go bust.
So then that's begs another question. If the banks go bust, Gerald, last time we bailed the banks out to the tune of trillions of dollars in real money. Eventually, the price tag was quite high, wasn't it? What will happen this time? Ron Paul always said the bad banks should be allowed to fail. That's healthy for the system. And everybody said that was heresy at the time. But looking back, was Ron Paul right?
Of course he's right. I said, yeah, the banksters run the country. Yeah, you see Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, right? It's what will they do? You know what I think they're going to do? They're going to come up with a digital currency. The Russians hacked our banking system. They'll make up something. We're coming out with a digital currency. We only got, when you look at the real debt level, by the way, it's not 36 trillion. It's more like 260 trillion when you put Social Security, everything else into it. They're going to make up something else. Look what happened during the Great Depression. Turn in your gold. You can't own gold. All right. You go to jail if you don't turn it in. It's a crime syndicate running the country. And the banksters, big tech, the drug dealers that people call big pharma, the banksters and the military industrial complex, they run the country.
Well, those S&P 500 stocks, I'm talking about the big defense contractors. I guess as long as those are healthy and the stock market's looking good, then I guess the politicians are safe at that point. Because isn't that the formula that we've been kind of running off of for a little while now? Is there any incentive to change that? Or in other words, what I'm saying is, do you think the incoming Trump administration and the experts, the new Treasury Secretary, who's getting a lot of press as well, are they going to be able to address the fundamentals, any of these fundamentals, Gerald? And if so, how difficult of a task is that?
It's a difficult task, and we have to see what they're going to do. But there's no way. You talked about how much we bailed out the banks. According to the Levy Institute at Bard College, $29 trillion. As people losing their homes, subprime mortgage scam. Remember that one? Oh, and what does Blackstone buy up all the homes now? And now look how many homes are owned by the venture capitalists and the hedge fund groups. That didn't exist before the panic of 08. Didn't exist. And now they own like 25, 27% or something, the homes. People can't afford to buy homes. So they're going to do what they're going to do. Again, we don't know. And again, by their deeds you shall know them. Their words don't mean anything. And if Trump lives by some of his words, I think it's going to be positive for the economy. And I think the markets will go up again if he lowers interest rates. And, this is the guy, by the way, that people forget. He's the one that called a state of emergency on Black Friday, March 2013. Locked down the country. Brought interest rates down to zero. And dumped in what? $3 or $4 trillion to artificially prop up the economy. And then Biden kept it going, pumping in even more. So they've created this horror story that's not going to be fixed. But they're going to come up with a new game. And again, I think it's going to be, and look what Bitcoin's doing since Trump got in there. It's up over 40%. So I think the future's from dirty cash to digital trash.
So this leaves a few unanswered questions going into the new year. We've also got two wars that are brewing, one of them potentially nuclear. And we're told that the war's going great in Ukraine. We just need to give them more weapons. We need to get behind it a little bit more to get a stronger negotiation position so that when Trump comes in, this is what General Kellogg is saying on the media, that when Trump comes in, they'll have more leverage, Gerald. Well, here's the situation right now in Ukraine. This is a recruitment video from Zelensky's office. Let's have a look.
Oh yeah, nightlife citizens. It's good to see you on the dance floor here at Black Milk. Take a drink and feel our groove.
So, Gerald, they're not exactly lining up in Ukraine to go to the front line. We thought we saw the end of trench warfare in World War I, but apparently not. So nobody's addressing this. Everybody has played a role in it. Trump has played a role. Biden has played a huge role. The Obama administration's played a massive role in creating this situation that we're now on the precipice of a nuclear war with a major nuclear power, the Russian Federation. And is what you're hearing right now, is it serious enough? I think the Trump administration could have really put Biden in the corner after these ATACMS missiles and Storm Shadows were fired off last week. But I don't see that happening. I'm trying to work out what's going on. Do you have any ideas on this strategy that, or lack of strategy that we're witnessing right now, Gerald?
This is your cover of your Trends Journal back in 2014. See how happy that guy looks? It's the United States overthrow of the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine, brought by the United States. And here's the article. This is written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. Washington is driving the world to the final war. World hegemony is not a right America has earned. And down the bottom, it keeps going on. Washington concluded that Russia needed to be confronted with or distracted by problems that would leave the Russian government less confident or able to counter Washington's aggression elsewhere. Ukraine presented the perfect opportunity for Washington to advance its hegemonic agenda. In a speech at the National Press Club last December, and anybody could look this up, December 2013, Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland boasted that Washington had invested $5 billion in non-governmental organizations for the purpose of the NGOs to, quote, teach democracy in Ukraine. The United States overthrew the government. There's no way that Ukraine is going to win this war. If Napoleon, who left Poland with 420,000 troops to attack Moscow in 1812 and came back with 10,000, if Germany, who launched Hitler's Operation Barbarossa, killed some 25 million Russians, and according to the John F. Kennedy's speech to graduating students at American University in June of 1963, Kennedy said they lost their factories, their farms, their homes, their land from the equivalent of Chicago East. And they were the first ones to defeat the Russians, the Germans rather. What makes you think Ukraine is going to be able to defeat Russia? No way, no how. They have very, very advanced technology. They are becoming a self-sustaining economy. They have the human and natural resources they need to be self-sustaining. Because when all those companies left, Biden's words were, when the war began back in 2022, February 24th, Biden said, we're going to punish Putin. He didn't punish Putin. They became more self-sustaining. All those businesses that left, the Russian people took over. So going back, we are on the verge of nuclear war. They're warning us. And now you got these clown boys like Macron and Starmer and Macron, Starmer, and Boris Johnson and these other people shooting their mouth off that we need, and the Americans, more weapons to keep fighting this war, the proxy war. We're at war with Russia. If I asked you, I said, listen, man, give me some hand grenades. I want to go blow the guy's brains out across the street. And you gave them to me. You're an accessory to the crime. So we are on the verge of nuclear annihilation. World War I's not ancient history. We have crazy people, demonic people that are running the world. They're demonic.
And I just got back from a visit to Hungary, to Budapest last week, Gerald, and everybody there, every single government agency we spoke to, every single military person, they said, we have been demanding and wanting a ceasefire and negotiations for the longest time. And they're very worried, Slovakians, Hungarians, the people who are actually on the front line, Gerald, they're beyond concerned at this point.
Yep.
Because they stand the most to lose from an expanded conflict. But the further away you get from this front line, the more showboating, the more rhetoric, the more strident the threats, the pontification about how Russia's collapsing. I don't know how many times I hear this on a daily basis from the Times here in London. Russia's collapsing. The military's in free fall. They even said, believe it or not, on the Times, Rupert Murdoch's Times Radio, they said that Russia is so desperate they're sending human waves, like in the Korean War. Human waves.
Yeah.
So the propaganda is something that even Stalin's Pravda couldn't get away with back in their heyday, Gerald.
Yeah.
But that's where things are right now, in the pockets of intelligentsia that are making the major decisions.
I know. Again, the media, I call them prostitutes. They're media whores that get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and their government whoremasters. You mentioned Murdoch. Look at all the people that Trump brought into his cabinet and his office that were clowns on Fox TV. And by the way, I used to be on Fox a lot at one time. But when I came out against the wars, they don't want me on anymore. So they're prostitutes. And what you said in Hungary is true, but then you got to look at what they say in Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. And they're very pro-war. You got that little clown from the defense secretary in Estonia. What is it, a country like 1.5 million people? Saying we have to build our defense up to fight Russia? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And by the way, this is important too. Not in Ukraine, but what Israel is doing. Israel is nothing more than a bully. I mentioned 1.5 million or something in Estonia. Oh, they're beating up Hamas over there in Gaza. Oh, Gaza, a place the size of Philadelphia. Oh, and Gaza has those F-16s and tanks. Oh, they don't have anything. Hamas doesn't have anything. Oh, but they're beating them. Oh, now they bombed the hell out of Beirut. And now a phony ceasefire. Oh, Beirut, a country the size of Connecticut, 5.7 million people. They don't have the military to fight Israel. Now let's fast forward. You listen to Netanyahu's speech when they allegedly had a ceasefire agreement with Lebanon. He goes right into, we have to cut off the head of the octopus, Iran. Yep. Iran. Oh, country in 91 million? Oh, the Persians? Very advanced scientifically, technologically. Israel, a country in 9 million. And when you take out the Arab population, 7 million. 7 million against 91 million? Who's going to win? No way. No way, no how could Israel defeat Iran. Not even close. But again, going back to my fear, there's a thing called the Samson option. S-A-M-S-O-N. If Israel loses, they go nuclear. They have between 200 to 400 nuclear warheads. And that's my greatest concern.
Yeah, that is a great concern. And if that threat was to materialize, what would Washington do? Would Washington be able to restrain their great friend and ally, Israel, in the Middle East, or would all bets be off at that point? I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but
well, I know the answer is right there in the elections in the United States. Whether it was Harris or Trump, they keep spewing out the bullshit line, Israel has the right to defend itself. Oh, they have the right to kill anybody anywhere as well. Oh, yeah, Syria, they just killed a bunch of people. They can bomb anybody if they want. The government's controlled by Israel more than the people of the United States control it. The United States will do everything they can to support Israel. And again, it'll mean nothing because, again, hadn't won a war since World War II, and again, wouldn't have won that without Russia. So the United States' support of Israel will make absolutely no difference at all against Iran.
Yeah, and I often wonder when we do get past this current impasse, if we get past in one piece. I hope we do. I hope nuclear war doesn't break out before January 20th or after that as well. But the thing I'm most worried about is the politics, Gerald, is the belief sets that people have. That even with this, you've just outlined this scenario with Iran, which I think any sane military person can look at the the balance of force and resolve there to know Iran has a huge advantage. That Russia has a massive advantage in Europe against Europe and NATO and Ukraine, but that somehow the thinking. How long will it take the thinking to adjust in America to become sort of au fait with that new reality, because that's the thing that's frightening to me. And it gets back to that point you said before, Gerald, censorship. The censorship is hugely damaging if you don't have access to seeing what the other side is saying. Nobody's interested in what Putin or Lavrov is saying. They don't care. Or the Iranian president, supreme leader or whatnot. They don't care. But you have to know. You have to know exactly what they're saying to know how to make your counter moves, or to know if it's time to come to the negotiation table and save, a billion lives. But that's not happening. That, to me, Gerald, is one of the most frightening things. And it does come down to something even so basic as this this urge to censor foreign media that is going wild in America and in Europe right now. But I'll give you the floor for the final bit here. But go ahead, Gerald.
Well, again, there is no media. Journalism is dead. And as I said, you're mentioning, why don't people know about this or that, and how they feature a little clown boy like Boris Johnson, a nobody. The guy's out of office. He's a piece of crap, and they don't put the truth up. And it's very sad. It's heartbreaking. So to me, what I suggest to everybody is get in the best shape that you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because you're in the fight for your life. And it's up to we, the people, to change this. When they had I used to be on Hong Kong TV back in 2019 when there were protests going on. And they were like, out of a city of 7.5 million people, over 1 million people were taking to the streets in protest of what China was doing in overtaking Hong Kong. And I take a break. We're on like 20 minutes with the guy. And I say, Frank, so what's going on? Mr. Celente, we're not going to stop. We're not going to let the Chinese take over. Again, 7.5 million people, 1 million people taking to the streets. You can't get 1 million people out of 345 million people in America to take to the streets for peace. Where are they? And by the way, China ended the protests in Hong Kong when they launched the COVID war on their Chinese Lunar New Year, the year of the rat, in January 2020. That was the end of it. Everybody, and there were protests going on, by the way, all over the world. It was one of our top trends for 2020, New World Disorder. There were yellow vests in France, South Africa, Algeria. Millions of people were taken to the streets all over the world in protest of lack of basic living standards, government corruption, crime, violence, etc. When the COVID war happened, you can't go out, can't protest. So going back, 7.5 million people, 1 million people taking to the streets. You can't get 1 million people taking to the streets. And that's what has to happen. Here, we talk about the billionaires, right? The billionaires, they run the country. Hey, Musk, how about donating $1 billion to Occupy Peace? It's chump change for you. You're worth almost $1 trillion. Hey, how about Bezos? How about $1 billion? How about Buffett? I have 3 of the most historic buildings in America. It's on the only corner in America with pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings. And Kingston was the first capital of New York State before the British burnt it down. One of my tenants was Warren Buffett's son. He has a Novo Foundation. I had Ralph Nader up here, top people. Not a penny for peace. Where are the billionaires? Where they all got lockjaw? Or they hang, oh yeah, I'm stupid. How dumb can I be? See, these billionaires are smarter than all of us, because when they die, they're going to make these huge, huge coffins and take all that money with them. Look at the little freak show. Where's Gates and Zuckerberg? Not a penny for peace, because they're all pieces of crap. Not a penny for peace. You can't do it without money. End of story. I just told you about the elections in America, country after country. Without the dough behind you, you go nowhere. We need people you ask what could happen. It can't happen until the people unite for peace. That's the way I see it.
Well, we do have some big challenges ahead of us. I'm very encouraged, although Fox News isn't too happy to see all these students that have gone onto the streets to protest on behalf of Palestinian human rights.
Oh.
We couldn't pay people to be anti-war protesters, and then all of a sudden this manifested in the last year. Gen Z that everybody wrote off, Gerald. Ever said, oh, Gen Zers, they don't get it. They're too woke. They're this and that. I was shocked to see how quickly these kids picked this up, and we really became incredibly well informed on the nuances of the issue. So I've got some hope in that respect. Gerald, I don't know if you share the same optimism, but there are sparks of I think some positive developments there.
Again, yes and no, in the sense that woman that Trump picked for United States, what was it? UN ambassador Stefanik.
Elise
Stefanik. She was the one that got the presidents of like Harvard and Princeton, University of Pennsylvania, rather, fired because they didn't stop the protests. Now the data just came out. Because of all the restrictions that colleges have put on the protesters, the protests are way down now. They're way down. Yeah, they see that, again, it was like my generation during the Vietnam War. It was my generation that was taking to the streets, but they're not taking to the streets now. You know why? They were taking to the streets back then because we were getting drafted. That's why. But they don't care about war now because they're not getting drafted. My generation was lockjaw. Where are all the peace songs? Where are they? Where's Dylan? Where are all these people? Nowhere. Zero. Nada. Nothing. So again, you can't do it without support. It's the way of the world. It's the system of the world. If you're not at the top, you're going nowhere. And again, it's one big club, as George Carlin said, and you ain't in it. And that's who's running the world, the one big club. The banksters, the drug dealers, the people called Big Pharma, high tech, and the military-industrial complex. You've mentioned before about all the money that the politicians get. So without the money, it ain't going to happen, as I see it.
And I was a little bit concerned as well to see Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General come out saying that students protesting in favor of Palestinians should be deported, should be investigated and deported, plus what you said about Congressman at the time, Stefanik. These are anti-First Amendment, anti-constitutional measures being imposed by people in high positions in the next government. That, to me, is something to be worried about.
Yeah. Again, Trump came out against the protesters, too. The college protesters. So anyway, again, the old saying goes, money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah, certainly that's one of the big themes in this election, I think. If it may be, Gerald, we can crowdfund for $101 million for peace and send that to the Trump super PAC. Is that what it takes? 101 million?
Yeah, you send it to Occupy Peace. And yeah, we do everything we can. You know, I went for these things cost me a lot of money to put on these rallies. I pay this number of the speakers, you know, the sound, the security, and on and on. You know, I do it. I put my money where my heart is, and my heart's at peace. And that, by the way, that's why I bought these buildings. I was looking to leave the country, and I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I did a gig in Berlin back in 2012. And I never been to Berlin, but I spent a lot of time in Paris. Matter of fact, today my old girlfriend Marie-Pierre called me up to wish me, the best. And her brother Francois used to be the left shoulder of Jacques Chirac and Mitterrand. So I spent a lot of time there. And by the way, my close combat teacher, John Perkins, may he rest in peace, used to work out with the guys at Palais Élysée. So I knew Paris pretty well. I'd never been to Berlin. And they're showing me around. Here's East Berlin, blah, blah. This is 2012. And then in the afternoon, I'm having a cup of beer sitting outside. The sidewalks are wide enough for cafe tables, 4 and 5 deep, place to walk, a place to bicycle. Looking across the street, median, beautiful trees, and I see a beautiful German building, maybe 1880s, at the same height, all new construction. And I realized everywhere they took me, I saw the same thing. Beautiful, beautiful German buildings, then all new construction. I said to myself, Berlin was grander than Paris before it was bombed out. And in the 1930s, the Germans were at the height of Western civilization scientifically, technologically, culturally. I said, why didn't the people stop this? We're losing. Where were the people to take to the streets and say, stop, we had enough? Where were the people? I came back on April 27th, left on April 17th, I was there for 10 days, and there was a for sale sign on the Franz Rogan House, 1750 building, one of the most historic four corners in America. I have a building right down the street from it. And I bought that building, and I bought the other 3. They were up for sale. I bought them because the seeds of democracy were sown here. I said, I can't leave this country. I'm only me because I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, born to be free. Love it or leave it. No, you leave it. You don't tell me what to do. I went to jury duty here before this, this is what inspired me before this happened. And the guy said to the jury people, he said, you see that picture over my shoulder? He said, that's John Jay, the first Supreme Court judge of America. He was a judge over here. The Constitution that was written for Kingston, when it was the capital of New York State, it was written for New York State, rather. It was written in Kingston when Kingston was the capital. He said over 70% of America's Constitution comes from the Constitution that was written here. That's why I bought these buildings. And that's why I launched Occupy Peace. So I do everything I can to bring back the spirit of our founding fathers, which 3 words now are dirty words in American politics: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They're gone. And so that's why I own these buildings, and that's why I fight for peace.
Gerald Celente, Trends Journal. Really appreciate you joining us for the Sunday Wire. We've got a lot to think about. A lot of people got some time over the holidays, over this Thanksgiving week, of course, it just passed, and Christmas coming up. I think you've raised a lot of important issues, Gerald. I hope that people can reflect on a lot of these things, because I think they're fundamental, not to this country, but to the world too. And lots at stake right now. Lots at stake.
Yeah, yeah. And again, the Trends Journal, you go to trendsjournal.com. There's no magazine like it. And it's only $2.50 a week, 56 cents a week. So we're giving people everything we can to help them prepare, prevail, and prosper in these times ahead. So thank you so much for what you do. And thank you so much for having me on.
No, as our pleasure and our honor as well. I really appreciate you, Gerald, and I know our listeners and our viewers do as well. So we'll leave some details to the Trends Journal as well in the show description, everybody. So have a look there. I encourage you to look at this publication. It's well worth your while. Thank you, Gerald. Take care. All the best.
All the best to you as well.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Gerald Celente. Again, some strong words and a lot to think about. What we're going to do right now is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have an Overdrive segment, and we're going to hit some of those stories that we mentioned in the intro. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Genocide is never justified. There ain't no reason, 'cause human beings are more than just a kind, defined by race or religion. 'Cause 'cause we all have souls and a mission here on earth. Only God knows why. You can't decide their death, 'cause you weren't here for their birth or their first laugh or cry. Don't let the children die. Don't let the children die. Sisters and brothers, we know it's wrong when we see their fathers cry with their mothers. Genocide is never justified. There ain't no reason, 'cause human beings are more than just a kind, defined by race or religion. 'Cause we all have souls and a mission here on earth. Only God knows why. You can't decide their death, 'cause you weren't here for their birth or their first laugh or cry. Don't let the children die. Don't let the children die. Sisters and brothers, we know it's wrong when we see their fathers cry with their mothers. Don't let the children die. Don't let the children die. Sisters and brothers, we know it's wrong when we see their fathers cry with their mothers.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sunday Wire. Again, I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network and also at 21stcenturywire.com. Thank you again for rejoining us for this Overdrive segment. And that was, things got very emotional there. Gerald Celente is a passionate commentator who, you know, loves his country, cares about people living in the United States and the future of the country, and really takes these issues to heart in a way that I wish more of our political leaders would do, and do so on principle, the way that Gerald Celente does. So it's a great privilege and honor for us to have him as a guest, especially during times like this, when this straight talk is most welcome indeed. Gerald Celente, fantastic. Check out Trends Journal, or we've got some information about how to subscribe. This is actually a publication that you should have, and it's very affordable. So again, we just want to promote that as a thing that I think people need to know about and possibly get their hands on a regular basis. you saw the sort of issues that Gerald is on the cusp and has his finger on the pulse. His team is a great team at Trends Journal. So hopefully you guys can partake in some of that. I want to bring onto the stage right now our co-host, who's also host of the Boiler Room on ACR. Many of you will know him by his handle, Hesher, Bryan McClain. Welcome to the stage this week at the Sunday Wire. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm good, Patrick. It's great to see you too. Always appreciate Gerald Celente's take. That he just lights a fire every time. He just pours that kerosene on his head like gel, lights it on fire, and goes.
No, and then some, and he was really tearing up at the end, and it shows you how deeply he cares about people, and he cares about his country, the people in the United States, but also in the people of the world as well. It's why he's such a great advocate for peace, and his platform really should be bigger, and maybe it will be with the help of many people. So hopefully we can rally more people to this cause, because we are kind of at a real sort of critical moment, Hesher, going into the new year. There's a lot of uncertainty. A lot of crazy things have happened over the last week, particularly with these attacks in Russia by the U.S., by Ukraine. Britain and France are quite gung-ho as well. Separate Middle East conversation, but your thoughts on some of the things that we've seen happen over the last couple of weeks?
I'm a little taken aback and a little not surprised at the same time by the hubris of the Atlanticist machine and whatever it is that's controlling the Biden administration to, approve all this stuff right now. And it's, that it's amazing, that they think that nothing will happen because of it. We're what, like more than, I don't know, what are we, 2 years into this thing with Ukraine now almost? And, what is going on here? Like, yeah, let's escalate this. Let's escalate this. Let's send munitions in there, and the talking point that, oh, Putin's just a bully. He's not going to use any of these weapons. Don't worry about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, but they have been pretty clear about what they're going to do and what kind of demonstrations they might do, and what they're going to do in retaliation if long range and medium range munitions keep coming into Russia. And now I'm hearing scuttle about 100,000 troops potentially going to Ukraine, and like Lavrov and others are basically saying, would you like to see an American base or a joint base in Poland get smacked with one of our munitions that you can't shoot out of the sky? Like what is that? Like it feels to a lot of people, standard Americans, not media maniacs like us. It's starting to feel to a lot of Americans and people are in Europe and all over the place that they're trying to start a global conflict right in the just the short number of weeks before Trump is supposed to take the White House. So what all that means, just on the edge of my seat, waiting to see.
Look, if you're sending Western troops into Ukraine, okay, fine. But there's going to be no missiles flying towards Russia at that point. So if they're talking peacekeeping forces, then let's have the negotiations. Let's bring the parties to the table. And if they're insisting there's going to be Western troops somewhere in Western Ukraine as a peacekeeping forces, that's fine. If they can pull that off, great. But there ain't going to be no attack of missiles, nothing going into Russian territory. Because guess what that means? If there's any shenanigans going on, then all of those troops become targets, and the life expectancy is very low. We're talking, 24, 48 hours or something like that, wherever the barracks are. Where are they going to sleep? A mile underground at night? I mean, that's what you're looking at logistically. Do you really want to get into a war with Russia? Battle-hardened Russia. It's had 3 years to tool up. 3 years. What have NATO troops been doing? I know they've sprinkled a few in with the Ukrainian mercenaries, and they've gone and done their little tours, little hit and run jobs with shoulder-mounted NLAWs and escaping in Toyota compact cars. That's not really a recipe for success when you're going up against a new Russian army that's been completely revamped. Did you happen to see this hypersonic missile that was fired, the Oresnik, Hesher? I mean, in terms of advanced missile tech, 36 or 64 warheads on there, clustered warheads traveling at Mach 10. So that's the conventional threat.
Yeah.
Just the conventional threat. Does Russia even need a nuclear weapon at this point?
It appears that they don't. I was watching a video about this missile system, and like this is a jump in kinetic warfare, right? Like the speed at which these things are coming completely changes the battlefield. Like you compare that to like our Patriot and cruise missiles and stuff. Yes, they're devastating. Yes, they're effective. But they can be shot out of the sky. And these things can't be shot out of the sky. As far as I can tell, there's pretty much no way to shoot these things out of the sky. So, and they come at such high speed. I mean, I was watching a video where they were talking about this technology, and they're basically saying because of the speed at which it comes, it actually can be used as a very precise munition that can eliminate a lot of collateral damage, if you will, because it comes in so fast. It doesn't behave like other munitions that those of us in the West are used to seeing.
Sure, and we have to ask the question now. So, if this is the new conventional deterrent, and that a lot of people know, I've not heard any Western pundits talk about this. So Russia's ahead of the game. They have a conventional deterrent. Without even bringing out the nuclear question or pulling the nuclear card. So that means what if let's say Russia takes a few more of these attack them hits in their territory on the chin. They've taken a few on the chin. Yes, they've made some responses there, which I think are more symbolic responses. But did you notice, Hesher, Russia revised its doctrine for rules of engagement? So that means they will consider, you know how everyone's really clever and quite bombastic about NATO Article 5, an attack on one is attack on all. The Russians wouldn't dare take on the whole of NATO. Okay, that's the trope that they're pushing out constantly, our politicians. So Vladimir Putin, if you actually listen to his speeches, what he said last week is, okay, well, we regard an attack by one as an attack by all. Ergo, we reserve the right to neutralize the source of those attacks, especially if there are weapons coming from NATO. So manufacturing, bases. So what happens, Hesher, if Russia decides to drop an Oresnik into Poland and what is it, Camp Trump or wherever the new base is, and flatten it a square mile with a conventional missile? What's Europe going to do at that point? Are they going to rush to Article 5 and want to get their war on? Or are the people of Europe and politicians going to say, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't sign up for this. This is so is it going to be viewed, Hesher, as a retaliation to Russia, or are they going to sell it as Putin has this unprovoked aggression by Vladimir Putin? Because you know how the propaganda machines work. But will it work? That's my question, because that's actually the fundamental question. It's in the political realm decides what the military action or reaction will ultimately be, right? Because we're talking about Europe here. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. And that, getting back to, I used the term hubris earlier. This is exactly what I'm talking about, because, we had Simon from Florida come on a special boiler room last week, and he read through the entire document. We spent a good hour with the document, going through it line by line. And I what is going on over there at the Pentagon? What's going on over there at the NATO offices? I mean, they must have read this, right? Like, here, for example, this is language that you'll see peppered throughout the entire thing, all 12 pages or whatever it ends up being. Aggression by any state from the military coalition, bloc, alliance against the Russian Federation and or its allies is considered as aggression of this coalition, bloc, or alliance as a whole. So think about that for a moment, folks. If a American, if a British, if a French missile is launched into Russia, right, long range into Russia, be it from Poland, be it from inside of Ukraine itself, you're in that block. If you're in, UK, France, America, or the entire alliance, talking to all of us, NATO, they're saying, hey, you might get a demonstration and you might get, a full-on event. And it's not like, oh, we're just gonna, consider Ukraine using your stuff. No. It's a block. It's an alliance. And, people aren't thinking about that. That's what really has me concerned, or maybe they are, most likely they are thinking about it. They know exactly what it means. There's a lot of stupidity rolling around in the systems and in the government and in the Atlanticist bloc. I'll give you that. But somewhere in there's at least one person or some shadowy star chamber of people saying, yeah, okay, fine, let's do it. Let's send it in there anyway. To what ends? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the incoming administration, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is exactly what the plan has been all along. Who knows? That's sort of in the realm of speculation. But what is not in the realm of speculation, if you look at what's been said by Lavrov, by Putin, by others, and then read this document, you should be concerned about what NATO as a whole and all these the bloc and the alliance. Who's in the bloc and the alliance? Well, a lot of us, and that could mean military targets all over the place get hit if this continues.
And then who's going to be blamed for that? There's only so much you could say, oh, it's all Putin's fault. It's just Russia aggression and this war of choice, unprovoked war of choice against the Ukrainians. This talking points can only go so far because it does. This is where the propaganda becomes a problem. Okay,
Yeah.
And so you've rightly pointed out, Hesher, Russia's put it down. It's in print. They've reiterated that vocally. That's published. That's on the record. I go to the Western side of the conversation. I don't hear anything that resembles anything within the realms of reality. What I hear the Western conversation is Biden's allowed Zelensky to use our weapons, our ATACMS, our Storm Shadow missiles, or Scalp. Scalp is the French version of the Storm Shadow. It's the same missile. It's a joint venture between Britain and France. We've allowed Zelensky to use these weapons. We've taken the gloves off Zelensky. Is it, that's an indictment of Ukrainian sovereignty if there ever was one. But put that aside for the moment. As I said to Colonel Daniel Davis on his show a couple of days ago or earlier in the week, the question is that's the U.S. conversation. They bracket it like that. We've allowed Zelensky. Russians aren't looking at that. They're not translating things this way. They're saying their question is NATO at war with Russia or not? Okay, kind of a serious question. We're not having that conversation in the West. This is where the buffoonery and the propaganda and the outright stupidity and the ignoramuses in Washington, in London, in Brussels, in Berlin, and all these crazy hawks in Estonia and Latvia that are festooning around Brussels. I don't even know her name, the latest sort of model spokesmodel for the EU foreign policy. Do they really understand what's going on the other side? And they probably don't, Hesher, because they've banned all Russian media. They've censored it all. They don't even know what Lavrov said, any of them. They don't care. They're not doing any diplomacy. There's no shuttle diplomacy. There might be some back channel stuff going on between Washington and Moscow, maybe a little bit, but from the NATO level to the EU Brussels level to the UK level, it seems like they're just in the background scheming, trying to find some new stunt to pull or some new bridge to blow up that's going to turn the tide and it'll get the Ukrainians motivated again. Because I just look at the polling. I think it's a Gallup poll here. Over 50% of Ukrainians want to pursue a peace settlement now. They're not interested in the war going. Okay. So, but our politicians are saying, oh, there's brave Ukrainians. They're going to fight right down to the last man. We just need to give them everything that they need to win. So, come on.
Like they haven't lost enough men yet. I mean, the numbers, that's a shocking set of numbers. You know, the amount of Ukrainian men and boys, young, fighting age and too old age, that have been lost so far. You know, it's just like it's hard for me to compute that a bureaucracy, a set of international bureaucracies have usurped the ability to have, you know, a general corps, a set of military generals that are actually understanding, you know, warfare, actually understanding, you know, maybe they don't, never mind the geopolitics of it. Like, how can it be in 2024 with, you know, a couple thousand years of military records? How can it be that we're just like sitting here going, well, is this all just bureaucratic dum-dums? You know, they're not reading documents. They're not tacticians. They're not looking at, you know, the chessboard here and seeing that, you know, they're almost out of pawns and they're going to have to start sending, you know, the rook, the knight, and eventually the king and the queen into the meat grinder. It's really hard for me to comprehend how there can't be some, I don't want to say sane military voices, but military people with the experience to say, hey, this is not a plan that ends anywhere good. And then I start thinking about the actual citizens, and it's like, do we actually like, you think back to, you know, even after 9/11, but, you know, World War II, World War I, Vietnam, Korean War, like, we didn't have the internet back then. So it's understandable to see that, you know, the things like false flags to start it off, and things like, you know what I mean? Like it's understandable to see how they drag the heart and mind of the citizens into supporting something like this. But at this point, I mean, in particular with Ukraine, now that it's you know, been going on so long, and there was such a big attempt to get everybody on board with that, and it was rolling along for the first, you know, 8-9 months or so, maybe even first year. But now you're just, people aren't into it anymore. And it's like, these are things that we're talking about things that could lead to people's homelands getting attacked and drastically changed in Europe, and maybe even here in the United States. And do we have a citizenry here that wants this? Do we have enough people to surge into the military and make it a fighting force that's going to be effective in a battle like this? That could be, because Russia's not even really saying flat out who their bloc and their alliance is. But when we were talking with Simon, it's very clear that the potential is that bloc could include Iran, China. Some are saying North Korea. I think North Korea is a little sketchy, a bit of a CIA state, if you ask me. But anyways, it's still a player on the board. So, like, what is this block? And you know what I mean? Like, things could be coming from multiple directions if this really ends up going in that direction. It's not just the bully Putin who's just, oh, I'm gonna wing one of these missiles into Poland because I'm gonna hit this U.S. base just for the heck of it. You know, like, the amount of forbearance that Russia has shown since 2014 has been quite a bit. A lot of forbearance, a lot of pleas for stopping this. And, it's just push, keep pushing. Who's going to be in your military? Like, we've got our militaries. Are people going to surge to it? I look around left and right here in America, and I don't see a whole lot of young people looking at that as their trajectory, as I did, when I was in high school in the 90s.
No, the Starship Trooper recruitment ads are not going to work at the moment. I mean, look, we're up in Russia's grill. Let's just put it flatly. NATO's right up in their grill. When is the last time anyone's been up in America's grill? I'm talking for real. And then migrant surges over the southern border. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about big major militaries, big military alliances pressing on the Canadian border, or landing in California, or coming over New Mexico and taking territory, or positioning nuclear weapons or nuclear capable weapons. Oh yeah, we had that in the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? So what happened? Massive diplomatic emergency, a crisis. Everybody came to the table that was diffused, and we got on with the rest of the Cold War with no major incidents between the two superpowers. Okay. Don't see any of that going on here. There's no hotlines. Nothing is happening here. So this is the problem. So we have to keep our eyes peeled, and I hope that personally, I think I'm worried that the Trump administration didn't come out and just lambaste Biden for the ATACMS and the British for the storm shadows they fired into Russia. I mean, that to me would have really set the scene, and created a global public opinion backlash that would have given him a great leverage in negotiations in January. But maybe they're keeping their powder dry for some reason. But the problem with that, Hesher, is you keep your powder dry like this. What happens when the next thing happens and the escalation ladder goes up? What if it goes over the edge? Then what? Oh, well, I guess you ain't going to be able to end it in 24 hours, Donald, are you? On January 21st. Ain't going to happen because we've stepped over the Rubicon. Oops. Oh, better go talk to the Joint Chiefs. That's all I'm going to say. So while all this is going on, Hesher, and speaking of propaganda, just as there was a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, which we knew wasn't going to last more than 24 hours, and of course it didn't, but it was timed perfectly with the release of they've let the dogs of war in Idlib out of their cages, Al Qaeda and ISIS. And here's our mainstream media, Hesher. They continued right where they left off. This is the Telegraph. Syrian war ignites as rebels launch surprise offensive against Assad. Rebels. Oh, so Al Qaeda, and you look in the article, even admitting these are Al Qaeda affiliates. They didn't say ISIS, but I posted all the ISIS photos on my Twitter feed. So they haven't missed a step. It's almost like this has been in cold storage. And this opposition forces, they're calling them. They're calling Al Qaeda and ISIS opposition forces in Idlib, which folks, ISIS tried to create an Islamic State in Raqqa and Mosul, straddling Syria and Iraq. It didn't work. Okay. It didn't work. But guess what? They finally succeeded in Idlib. They made their Islamic State. It's called the Idlib province. They occupy it. Terrorist occupied piece of Syria, totally backed and supported by the United States, Israel, Turkey, and our allies, believe it or not. And they just unleashed them on Aleppo, one of the oldest continuously populated inhabited cities in the world. They've unleashed them again, just as they've done rebuilding that city from the terrorist sieges during the last 15 years. They've let these maniacs out once again, and they're calling them moderate rebels, Hesher. How about that?
Moderate rebels. Oh boy. I thought we were beyond this. I thought we had spent like 5 years with these people and completely debunked it. We it's just amazing, and I think back to, I think it was Christmas of 2018. We did that broadcast, when Aleppo was, especially Eastern Aleppo, was finally getting relief from the terror, the horror that they had been experiencing, and all in the name of media psyops too. Is like the only reason those people had to experience all that was because it was convenient for media psyops, so that they could prop up these moderate rebels, which is just it's globalese. It's a propaganda term for state-funded terrorism, basically. So and the amount of propaganda busting that we did here on this show over those years it's a pile. It's amazing. It's hours and hours and it's I don't even know how many thousands of hours, man and woman hours of combined research, reporting, journalism, travel, danger, broadcasting, the backlash. I mean, we were at the pointy edge of the censorship spear in 2017. It all started with the seemingly to most people benign Google adpocalypse and Google deranking. Oh, no big deal, whatever. And now look at the way people feel about censorship. I think Gerald Celente is a great example. I think about Gerald Celente and others that I used to see, yourself and many others that I used to see on RT all the time, and the amount of eyeballs on that RT YouTube channel, amazing, absolutely amazing. And now it's like many of these voices have experienced that rung of censorship, the next rung, and then the universities get involved. The Kate Starbirds and all these wackos with their heat maps get involved, and then the Atlantic Council Digital Forensic Lab, is involved. Facebook's involved, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And people kind of didn't think about it much up until 2020, and then the big crap show of 2020 and 2021 happened, and it came down hard, over the election, over Hunter Biden, over jabs, over viruses, over all these things. And then, of course, RT taken down, and the Ukraine thing happened. And it's like now it's an entire industrial complex. It's an entire industrial complex. And the mainstream conservatives have used it as a plank, right? As a platform plank. We're running on freedom of speech. Okay, well, let's go back and make some of these things right as free speech is, as it pertains to free speech. Let's go back and fix some of these things instead of go into the next thing, because this is going to get ugly. And if we're going to go back to where we were between 2015 and 2018, getting back to Syria, we're in deep trouble, because that work has already been done. These propaganda narratives have already been busted, and unfortunately, it looks like they're blowing the dust off of them, and they're going to reintroduce it to the public.
Oh, yes, beautiful cue to our next item there, blowing the dust off it. There's a lot of dust. You remember a lot of dust on little babies and boys, Dusty Boy, Omran in Aleppo, all these sort of propaganda set pieces that they inundated with us. The problem with all of that propaganda is that it got a dose of reality in the last 14 months, something called Gaza, where we saw actual people being pulled out of rubble, dying under the rubble. We saw actual first responders, what they really look like in a real war situation. But this week, in the last 48 hours, guess who they've dusted off out of retirement? Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the return of the white helmets. Yes, they're back. The production teams have sprung into action as Al-Qaeda is deployed in Idlib against the city of Aleppo. The white helmets are on the scene to create Assad's barrel bombs, scenes. The smoke machines have been fired up. Although I will say that the budget looks like it's been slightly reduced. There's a lot of less extras on set for this, but let's look at their latest film release. This action drama film from the White Helmets, supposedly in Idlib, but this could be filmed in Gaziantep, Turkey. We don't know. Could be filmed somewhere in, who knows? It could be in the UAE. We don't know. But let's take a look at this one. It's quite exciting and thrilling.
يلا تعالوا 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 ما في شيء ما في شيء يحكون عنا وين في جوا شيء في حدا يلا يلا في حدا شيء لا ما تم رجال حطي معي يلا 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 اختي بعد خد شوي بعدوا
First of all, what do you think about the production values? I like the motorcycle. The honking was going on. We saw the dust. White Helmets were there, absolutely pristine. It's as if they haven't really used the jumpsuits for a couple of years, so they're probably in very good condition. What did you think of this latest? This is one of their comeback shorts here, Hesher.
I don't even know where to begin. Yeah, I'm a little stunned. I don't want this. I'm sick of this. Like, it's easier to look at than, what I'm looking at in Gaza. That's for sure. That, like, look at that. And then if you have this fortitude, go look at some video out of Gaza, how they're dealing, if that's what they're telling us, this is what freedom fighters do when children are attacked. This is what it looks like. Okay. Well, apparently it looks very, very different. It looks very, crushed up cementy, very baby powdery, very, oh, we're trying to help. We're trying to help. Oh, there's an authority here trying to help. Look, there's someone, an official person with a helmet on.
Yalla, 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 yalla.
Yeah, yalla, yalla. It's rush in there. Get them, save them. Look, we got 3 babies out of there. They're only dusty. They'll be fine. That bad Assad. But then you look, you dump into the Telegram or wherever your source is, and you look at what's going on in Gaza, and you see true horror. You see true, abject, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching horror. A parent walking around with a leg, pieces, like stuff that no one should have to see ever, stuff that you would hope would not be happening in the technological, advanced world of the 21st century. It's just like, compare those two. If you think that what you saw there from that propaganda unit, and by the way, if you're new to this concept of the White Helmets, if you dig into the archives at 21stcenturywire.com, you can find out about their funding, you can find out about who they're related to, you can find out about a lot of fake things that they've put out. You can find out a lot about some of the children that they've used as props in some of their videos. We've been documenting this stuff for years, and it's all on the website. And that has a lot to do with why we were deranked on Google right there, because that is pure journalism, my friends. And that is not available on Fox, on ABC, NBC, MSN, DNC, none of them. It's just not there. You won't find it there. In fact, you'll find the opposite. You'll find them propping up this White Helmets group. But yeah, it's disgusting, Patrick, to think that, that is the vision, that's the piece of media that people in the West see when America and other countries are propping up literal terrorist units to harm civilians, and then make a little media thing on the side to say, look, well, we send our NGOs in, they're helping save these little children that the brutal Assad, has hurt with his barrel bombs. I mean, it hurts having these words come out of my mouth again, because I thought we were beyond them. I had enough hurty words coming out of my mouths and into my ears from the mass media cartel in the last 4 years to be moving all the way backward to that one and having to pick it up again. But here we go.
They raised in excess of $250 million, mostly from Western governments and from people's donations, and even Japan chucked money in there. I mean, it's just Mayday Rescue. They funneled it into the white helmets. Most of this money that was raised in the West went to video production outfits, public relations, into the pockets of who knows who, somewhere along the line. I mean, they were just splashing with cash like nobody had ever seen before. And you look at the people in Gaza under a blockade. Forget about medical supplies, food and water aren't allowed in, or electricity. They don't have control of their telecoms, and they're there trying. The white helmets have the latest state of the art rescue equipment. Inflatable bladders to lift cement. Whole half buildings or whatever, with air compressors. All this stuff, literally churning out fake videos, of which we've featured some of them at 21st Century Wire. And thank you for mentioning our archive. I'll put it up on screen here. This is the largest white helmets archive on the internet of reports by all of our writers at the time at 21stcenturywire.com. Vanessa Beeley probably being the most well-known on this topic. But I don't know how many we have in terms of white helmets articles and videos, but I think it's probably in excess of 600. So it's a decent size archive. Hey, we have a bit of information there, and you'll find some of the videos as well. Many of them have been scrubbed by YouTube, but we've uploaded them as local copies onto our website, so you can see some of the fakery. I mean, you could do a whole Hesher. We've been over this. We've been over this ground before. We could do a whole series of shows showing all the buffoonery and the fakery. And literally the photos of white helmets posing with Al-Qaeda headbands and their Kalashnikovs at night, and then dressed as white helmets running around rescuing cats during the day. So white helmets by day, Al-Qaeda by night. And plenty of evidence. Clarity of Signal, it's a good website. We've also republished that. Others have mirrored that. So it had all the photographic evidence of that. So, I mean, we don't have to relitigate this propaganda case again. But I just find it funny that they've got nothing better than to just wheel out rebels and white helmets. Moderate rebels, white helmets again. I don't think it's going to fly, Hesher. People are pounding them already, making absolute fools out of the people from the Telegraph and so forth. The Guardian's probably seen this with horror, and they're deciding how they're going to spin their narrative, because these people, they have got nothing but that old narrative regarding Syria. They can't let it go, because if they do, then they have to admit that they were wrong for 10 years, and that's painful. I understand. All those journalists, all those columnists, all those BBC reporters, CNN reporters, Arwood Damon sniffing backpacks for chemical residue. I mean, it was a joke. Clarissa Ward running around in a Badaya with, oh gosh, what was that guy? The CNN fixer who was the media spokesperson for Al-Nusra, Bilal Abdul Karim.
Yeah.
Bilal Abdul Karim was Clarissa Ward's CNN fixer, doing propaganda films glorifying these maniacs, head choppers, that terrorize the people of Aleppo. I mean, shameless. But that's the type of journalism, Hesher, that gets you big awards in mainstream media land. And Arwood Damon and Clarissa Ward bagged huge awards for their wonderful coverage of Syria, believe it or not. So fake news is, I guess, highly valued in some quarters. Hopefully not in the future, but that's kind of like a little master class of all this stuff. Anyway, so what they're trying to do, just for everybody, they want to split the Palestinian support between those who are, anti-Assad. They've duped quite a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of people who would support Palestine, Muslim Brotherhood types. They've duped them into sort of splitting their support now, because apparently Bashar al-Assad is the most evil thing on the planet. So they're told, even though Syria is fighting for the Palestinians and have never stopped fighting for the Palestinians. Actually, they've been at war with Israel for decades. So And that's the reason why things are there the way they are in the region. So that's the instability. It's amazing. So total coordination between Israel and Al-Qaeda and Idlib. Thank you very much. Case closed. Do you want to talk about the U.S. military and Al-Tanf and coexisting with ISIS in this sort of symbiosis? You want to talk? Do we want to talk about that too? So Israel, the U.S., ISIS, and Al-Qaeda, totally coordinated.
Yeah.
Totally coordinated.
And you think about all our friends who are veterans here. I know a lot of veterans around here, people that their lives changed drastically going to places like Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. And it's like so much of this is built on that propaganda, on the PNAC plan, Israel's plan to do what they want to do with Lebanon, with Gaza, with Syria. It's just like, stop all this. You're not only running psychological operations around the world. It's aimed at people that will be in our military or are in our military as well. And they're very, very effective for people like that. Like, I'm not trying to diss anyone in the military here, but if you're military minded, especially if you're young and you're military minded, there's a lot of reasons to be that. There's a lot of opportunities. There's ways to get through your turbulent youth. Your inherent turbulent youth by being part of something like that.
Pay for your college.
Exactly. You can get out of a tough situation at home, in life, a rough city. You create opportunities for yourself. You can go to college and whatnot. And it's like, if you're that type of driven person, you're probably not spending your time peeling apart the onions and the layers of propaganda and learning geopolitics and all these things take years. They take years and a lot of research and a lot of experience, even just passive, even just as a passive viewer. So
I see a lot of idealism, the people are very idealistic. People I know in the U.S. military, a lot of them, a lot of veterans I know what's going on. They do,
right.
But a lot of them don't, and there are people who are very idealistic, and they don't want to get into the weeds of United States clandestine support for Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Traditionally, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, which became Al-Qaeda, is a complete U.S. and British intelligence creation. Period. End of story. Got the cash from the Saudis. Same story with Syria. Okay. So they don't want to get into the weeds of that because things get confusing at that point. And suddenly the world doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens? Computer shuts off. Can't take it. Don't want to hear it. Just get my flag out. Wave the flag. I'm a good American. Make America great again. Thank you, Donald Trump, Commander-in-Chief. Red hat. And let's go kill some Muslims. Let's bomb them over there so they don't come over here as immigrants, et cetera, et cetera. I hear a lot of this talk in the last couple of years, which is a little bit unnerving. But nobody wants to face the music as to the United States and its allies have created the problem, and they've drained the public purse to create this problem, a new problem that we need to react to again. So we're one false flag. I forgot who said this. We're one false flag on U.S. soil away from a third world war again, or a reboot of a 9/11 cycle, Iraq war cycle, because some little bomb goes off or a big bomb or some plane hits some building or something happens. And all of a sudden, boom, Toby Keith, get the songs rolling. You either with us or against us. You're either on board with America or you're not, because we've been attacked, etc. We went through this again, Hesher. Could it happen again, in your opinion? Could that cycle be initiated again, or have enough people woken up, Hesher, that enough people would call bullshit and not fall for this level of manipulation as we all got dragged into in 2001. Your thoughts?
I think it absolutely could happen again. Unfortunately, they've done such a good job at polarizing us here in the United States against each other, at corrupting us, our minds into thinking that none of this is even worth thinking about. I'm going to tune out. So many people have completely tuned out, living inside of the ego and the feedback loops of the interwebs. So yeah, but on the other hand, there are a lot of people who get it and are very disinterested in this. That, like, I'll give credit to even Joe Rogan on this one. He has arguably the biggest audience of anybody in the media anymore right now, and he's doing his best to understand it, and he's props to him. I don't always agree with him. I don't watch all his shows or anything like that, but I do keep an eye on the short clips, and I do see him telling his audience and his guests, like, what are these guys doing? Like, are they trying to start World War III? I actually saw him say it, and it's like, okay, that's an astute question to ask. Are they trying to start World War III, and would they use it to stop Donald Trump from getting into the White House? Is something bad gonna happen? They're poke the bear over and over again until something bad happens. Maybe it happens here, like you were saying. Maybe some sort of false flag happens here, or an attack, whatever, because people were let through that shouldn't have been let through. And would that be a means to stop what everybody thinks is about to happen? So imagine that level of confusion. Like, let's just game that out a little bit. Something happens, I don't know, dirty bomb in DC, or water supply attacked, or whatever it is. We could go on and on and on. But that happens, and all of a sudden, missiles start flying, exchanges start happening. Would they really put Donald Trump into the White House? They might. He might be an absolutely perfect president for a situation like that. I mean, who knows? But it's equally possible that they would just say, you know what, we're suspending his inauguration. We're in some sort of martial situation, and just imagine the chaos that would create, because there's so much gas in the conservative realm right now. So much gas in the conservative realm. So if whatever happened was in a way that conservatives here in America felt like they were under attack, and the American way of life was under attack, and Donald Trump was under attack, we'll follow the bouncing ball of propaganda, and many of us will speak out against it. But is X going to allow us to?
When you get that flag waving on Fox News, and you get the transitions, America's at war, and you get CNN on the case, you get these guys. But the media environment's not the same as it was before. So, but that, back to the Rogan and the podcasters. So, who are the biggest podcasters right now? Joe Rogan, Pat Bet David, all Trumpsters. Okay, all Trumpsters. So, are they going to go again? What if the establishment can manage to use Donald to put Donald into a corner where he has to be a wartime president to react to some contrived situation that's cooked up by the intelligence geniuses to create an arc of tension situation that we can't back out of? Are any of those podcasters going to call BS on a false flag in real time? Or are they going to do what they did during COVID, which is keep their mouth shut, go with the program for 12 months, and then after a year and a half say, I think something wasn't right with these lockdowns, a bit too extreme. And I don't know about this vaccine. Meanwhile, we were screaming like banshees, raising our alarms here in the sort of, lower mid tier of the independent media, but waiting for the Russell Brands, the Jordan Petersons, the Joe Rogans to do something. You say, tyranny is actually here, guys. Authoritarian systems, Jordan. The thing that you've been lecturing, that you got famous for, authoritarian systems, tyranny. It's happened. They've locked us down in our houses. They shut the airports down. Jordan. Joe. Nope. Nothing. Wait a year, wait 12 months, wait for the book to come out. Got to get the book out first. Then gonna make some noise. Let's watch the crowd to see where's the crowd moving. Russell Brand watching the crowd. Oh, it looks like it's reaching critical mass. We can now talk about COVID was a total fraud. How about it? And the vaccine is garbage. We can safely say that. I'm not cancelable. I am a multimillionaire. I've just signed a $100 million contract with Spotify. I can't be canceled. Well, if you can't be canceled, how come you couldn't come and say this right out off the bat? Think of the change it would have made, how disruptive it would have been for all these influencers who collectively have a much bigger media footprint and audience than the entire mainstream media. If they came out and dissented against any of that stuff, how disruptive would that have been to getting everybody to comply, especially men between the age of 18 and 40? Oh, that's a kind of important demographic, isn't it? It certainly is. So I'm just putting it out there. And I know that might upset people because we're talking about their fan bases might be very upset to hear us say that, but come on, let's just get real. If a false flag happened and it was done by one of the three-letter agencies or Israeli intelligence or who knows who, and it's clearly bullshit, and they're using it as a pretext to mobilize into a major war again, is anybody going to go against the president? Legit question, because that can happen. Because guess what? It has happened before. It has happened. Tucker Carlson, he will even go there on 9/11 and JFK. So don't tell me these are the top guys in independent media now. Will they go against a Trump presidency if the establishment manages to use Trump as their vehicle for total war and chaos? And it can happen, folks. So when the intelligence people come in there and lay out all of their fake intel, and who knows, they might not even be smart enough to spot a foreign government's intelligence op within their area of activity. Okay, that's happened before as well. Happened to us in America recently. So come on, guys. I'm sorry, are we having too deep of a conversation here, Hesher? Because I can make us digress very quickly.
We could go all day on this one, and I think it would be very positive minded and kind of me to look at some of these names that we're talking about right now and say, well, I forgive them. They were behind the curve. Or Jordan Peterson, I forgive you. You were having life problems and dealing with addiction and other things and whatever, and you seem to have caught up. Cool. Like I'm a pretty forgiving person, and that's where I would really love to be with all those voices. But quite frankly, Patrick, just to answer your question real quickly, I think that judging on the way that everybody responded to the COVID fiasco, the nightmare, the ultimate grift of all modern human times, perhaps, I have very little faith in any of them that they would do that they would go against the mainstream narrative, or maybe even against the Trump administration when it comes to analyzing something like that in real time. I have a really hard time believing it, and maybe it's even more difficult to expect that from them, because now all those voices are sort of part of the Trump administration. They're all buddies with Elon. Elon's now part of the Trump administration. That they've all interviewed Trump. That means they've had to go through probably pre-interviews with Secret Service and who knows how many, handlers and this and that. Like, it's weird to think about like a comedian like Theo Vaughn. And I'm not trashing him here, but it's weird to think about him like interviewing Donald Trump. Like, what does that all mean in the background? Like, I mean, I'm sure I'm not again, I'm not bashing him. I would like to take an interview with Donald Trump. I got some questions for him, but I would be pretty wary about the pre-interviews and all that other stuff. It's hard for me to imagine it just being like, oh yeah, he's just going to drop in and you can ask him whatever you want.
It could be very informal. I don't know the details of that, but I think I know where you're coming from. I mean, my biggest worry and concern is there is a level of lackadaisicness on the right within the MAGA camp, and you know, hard fought election. Congratulations. They fought hard and won. And this is, I think, definitely a populist victory. President has a mandate. Question is, what's the president going to do with that mandate? All I'm seeing right now is a lot of memes by Elon and a lot of half-baked tweets and sort of drive-by philosophical ranting and muttering that doesn't mean a whole lot and is not very substantive. So that's all I'm seeing so far. Merchandise, I'm seeing a lot of merch, memes and merch. Great, wonderful. I mean, don't you think there's some serious problems in the world that might not be able to be solved by merch or pornographic memes? And these are the people in government. So we're meant to trust the plan. Are we back there?
Yeah.
Are we back to trust the plan, Hesher? I mean,
I think we are.
I've seen QAnon green shoots coming up, actually, not fully, but it seems to be like appearing around. So, but that's kind of like the guiding principle of the first administration was trust the plan in the internet sphere. And now Elon Musk is kind of lording over that sphere. He is the ringmaster of that sphere. Okay. Are we going to go back to QAnon? Is that going to be, don't worry, everything's fine? Yeah, I know those are ICBMs coming from Russia, but trust the plan. It's all good. Trump's got it under control.
Yeah.
100,000 sealed indictments on Monday. You remember all that?
I'm afraid that the spirit of QAnon and the spirit of BlueAnon no longer need figureheads or particular accounts attached to them, because the ethos and the spirit of QAnon and BlueAnon, you know, the red and blue, red versus blue, has seeped its way into the psyche of those that live and die by power politics. So now you're seeing those. I like the metaphor you use there. You're seeing the green shoots coming up out of a lot of these people. And you know, this is I think this is probably an intended effect of the rapid pendulum swinging that we're seeing of the last three administrations. If you can you know, flip it every 4 years and do it in a way that is just so bombastic, so salacious, and so wrapped up in you know, cultural warfare and actual warfare and identity politics, you're gonna just end up with the acolytes on both sides just, you know, rushing to that 5D chess, trying to figure out how to make it 6D chess and 7D chess, and that's a defense mechanism against the cognitive dissonance that inherently comes with, you know, those Q and BlueAnon talking points. Like they just come out of people now. They don't need to have it placed in them anymore. It's like, oh, ICBM. Oh, well, you know, that's okay. I'm sure it's, you know, because of this and that, and it's all part of the plan, and I have to trust it, you know, and that's one of the most dangerous things that we face as society, is just trusting the plans of globalists and technocrats.
Well, yeah, sleepwalking while your government is engaged in an escalation ladder with a major nuclear superpower, and nobody seems to be bothered too much about it. So that's the sort of thing that does worry us a little bit, but we're paying attention, and I know other people aren't. There's other more important things that are going on, like you know, memes and merch and stuff like that. Look, we're going to wrap this up before we go. Hesher, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a fiery conversation, and I'm sure we're going to get some hate for it, But I think there's also going to be people that are going to appreciate it as well, because having a conversation, especially within the conservative community, where we don't have any sort of boundaries as to who we can criticize and who we can't. We're still all on the same team, folks. Everybody wants the best for everybody. Everybody wants prosperity, peace, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as Gerald Celente so eloquently said. And to remind us of that, that's what we all want, and not just for America, but for everybody in the world, ideally. And your pulpit, Hesher, the boiler room, give us a shout out. We'll put that up on screen. This is the show, folks, on ACR.
Yeah, absolutely. Boiler room. We were gonna do one last night, but you know what? It was a holiday. It was Thanksgiving, so we decided to just hang back and give thanks and have a nice holiday. Because honestly, I think things are gonna get really strange in the next 6 to 8 weeks here. I hope I'm wrong, but we're certainly seeing signs of it. So yeah, you can find us at alternatecurrentradio.com. Find all our wonderful shows up there, as well as some of our friends' shows that we help curate and give platform to. And yeah, find us here on the Sunday Wire as well every Sunday. And we'll see you in the boiler room, where you can't miss it. alternatecurrentradio.com. Anything you need to know about that show is up there, and we'd love to see you in the chats or in the comments.
Let it be your oasis of sanity, ladies and gentlemen. That's what most of our listeners use the programming here on the great Alternate Current Radio Network for, to help us get through these difficult times, to retain your sanity, to get a little bit of sober guidance through some of these more complicated areas of news, geopolitics, and decoding and unpacking propaganda and diffusing it so that it doesn't harm you and your family and your mental state. That's this free public service we're providing at the moment. So because it's free, we need your support for that. I'll put on the banner along the bottom, winter fundraising drive at 21st Century Wire is on now. And boy, do we need your help more than ever. Come on board, help us donate or subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. Also the same with alternatecurrentradio.com. Links on the show page, folks. Support Hesher and all the great programming at ACR, including Ruckus and all the talent that is on the books there. So thank you very much, Hesher. I appreciate you dropping in for this overdrive. It's been epic.
Yeah, absolutely epic. Thanks for having me, and thank you guys for watching and sharing and all the things that you viewers and listeners do out there to support us. It really means a lot.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Hesher. Great commentary on what's going on in the world. A veteran of the information wars, no doubt. And again, a winter fundraising drive is up at 21st Century Wire. Just hit the donate button. There's a lot of different ways you can support us. We really appreciate it. We definitely need it. And we've been able to do some great reporting on the ground in Spain, covering the floods in Valencia last week with Iada Madurelli. She's also a new associate editor at 21stcenturywire.com, doing some great journalism. Got a great Middle East analysis on the site too. A great stream of consciousness history lesson from Professor Roy Casagrande. Great write-up by Iara there. That's the sort of quality content we are releasing, and we need your help to do that. So we got goals that we want to get before the end of this winter. This is the fundraising drive that helps us fund the operation for the next 12 months. So we need your help for sure. No doubt about that. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for today. Big special thank you to our first guest, Gerald Celente from Trends Journal. Got the details for Trends in the show post, as well as our description on the YouTube Live. And as well, we'll drop something on X, a link for that as well. But you can just find a lot of this via Gerald Celente on his X Twitter account as well. And they'll be in the headline here, live on X. You just click on that. You'll see Celente's tag. Go there and find out more about what he's offering there. An amazing person, an amazing guest, and we appreciate him, especially during these troubled times in the world. Listen, folks, that's all I have time for today. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. It's been absolutely real. It's been an epic conversation, Overdrive with Hesher as well. But that's all we have time for. We're going to end the live stream now. But thank you for joining us on this live Sunday Wire. All the best.
in the final analysis, we all inhabit this small planet, and we are all mortal.
Lately I've been watching the world gone mad. Brothers and sisters full to take a stand, to hate their fellow man, another man. Divide and conquer is the acronym plan. Distract the people, control the story. Don't believe your lying eyes, you know me. Stay in power no matter what. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gamble your trust. Pushing us to turn to good. Corruption and lies. Truth is the crime, will turn to dust. Well-designed misery to keep you on edge, make you believe anything anyone says. Keep it left or right, not top to bottom. Accuse the victim, can't you see we got 'em? Stay in power no matter what. Playing with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gamble your trust. Pushing us to turn to good. With captured rights, feudals like time will turn to dust. Industrialized brutality, commercialized cruelty, people as commodity, cheer on war and atrocity, no accountability, perpetual impunity, always have an enemy, to hell with all humanity. Stay in power no matter what. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gamble your trust. Pushing us to turn to good. Stay in power, cash in the stock. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and join the cause. Pushing us to turn to good. An empire of lies, history rhymes will turn to dust. Digital inmates, scored on every move. Nowhere to hide, nothing to hold on to. Turn to dust, as we turn to dust, as we turn to dust.
Brothers and sisters, we're being divided. Don't believe what they say. Hold on to your soul. Everyone divided in an echo chamber hole, saying that the enemy doesn't have a soul.
rather see